Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from August 7th, 2020, and I'm recording this on February 5th, 2021. As always, I give the dates just because it really determines how relevant this information is. The further we get away from this, things can happen, can change these prices, and what's been the trajectory with what's been going on with these books. As always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. Each week they do a list of 10. This week we only got 15 books to talk about, so there was quite a bit of overlap between the two lists and what was hot. And as always, what we're doing here is trying to understand what made these books hot, and what they've done since, whether or not we should have just been patient, what factors made them maybe continue to stay hot or have caused them to kind of fall back. So we all do a better job of making smart decisions when we chase books and when we buy books and that kind of thing. So first up, we have only one kind of option TV related book, and this is Ren and Stimpy #1. This is hit the list. This is a polybag book that actually stinks. Like, as you see with the nose thing, it actually smells. And yeah, you probably don't want to start with your other comics, but this hit the list because Comedy Central announced that this was one of the shows they were talking about doing a reboot of. Don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. I haven't actually heard anything else about this. But back then it jumped up. They put it on the list because there was a 400% increase in sales. Raw copies were going from 5 to 15. 9.8 was going from 50 to 60. Interestingly enough, I put this as steady because raw copies are basically still, which is most of the sales, are still going for 5 to 15. 9.6s can be had for like $30. But 9.8s, because this book was polybag, because it was kind of not probably a well taken care of book, 9.8s are pretty hard to find, and they actually will go for $2 to $2.50 now. People kind of, this hitting the list caused people to remember this book even existed. I don't think most people did. So Slab 9.8 is way up in price, but everything else is sitting almost exactly where it was 6 months ago. Next we're going to move into covers, and we have several covers this week we're going to talk about. And the first one is a big one. It is Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man #1, the Fiona Staples 1 in 50 variant. And this is the second second appearance of Miles Morales, the first in kind of his own title. And this thing back then was raw copies were going for $450, a 9.8 hit $2,200. This has been straight cash. Like everything Miles this last year has been super hot, and this book has stayed hot. Raw copies now, mind you, this was just one sale. Everything else sold was slabbed. People have this book, they've sent it in to get it slabbed. But the one raw copy recently did go for $1,000. 9.8s currently are a little down from what they were then, but at $1,600 to $2,000, but still going for big money. Yeah, this is I don't know if this is the Miles Morales cover, but it's not that Djurjevic 1 in 25, but it's definitely maybe the next big cover in terms of Miles. Next we have Ice Cream Man #20. This is the Stewart variant, which is the Dr. Seuss homage. I'm not sure the second and third print were also Dr. Seuss homages, different ones, and I think they actually might even go for more than this one. But back then, at release, this was going for $20. Now it's a $20 to $30 book. 9.8, so go 70 to 80. So this one's been pretty steady as well. It's sitting right in that same range as when it was first released. Like I said, I think the second and third prints might actually even be slightly more popular than this one. But a very cool cover. And this Ice Cream Man series has had a strong following from the beginning. It's not a high print, but it's just got a strong following, and these books command pretty good value. Next, we have Star Wars Bounty Hunters #1, the second print. Back then, this was a $15 book at release. Now it's a $10 to $15 book. 9.8 will cost you $60 to $100. So another one that's been pretty much right in the same range as when it came out. It's a cool Boba Fett cover, which those tend to be pretty popular. And this one has maintained as, kind of that initial value upon release. Our next cover is Batman 92, the San Diego Comic-Con convention foil exclusive. So this is kind of the... DC does a lot of these foil covers of their popular covers. They did one for this first cover of Punchline. Back then, a few weeks after the con, it was going for $40 on the secondary market. Now it's $60 to $80. 9.8 will cost you $125 to $150, which is pretty good value. It's kind of what the Batman 89 goes for, which is kind of her cameo. Less than what the Hell Arisen book goes for, but still going for pretty good value for this convention foil. So it's actually been performed better, went up than I expected on these, because typically these foil ones don't do that great, but this one is. So next we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 104, the Garing 1 in 10, and this had everything to do with this. There's a turtle on the front that looks kind of like this whole Last Ronin idea, because he has all the weapons. So people expect that this is the first cover appearance of the Last Ronin. To me, this is just kind of a variant. The Last Ronin is not official canon. It's kind of a Elseworlds type thing. But either way, this book was very popular back then when the Last Ronin was getting ready, when announcements were coming out about the Last Ronin. It was going for $20 to $50. 9.8 was going for $125 plus. Now it's going $60 to $90. 9.8 will cost you $200. So the Last Ronin has started coming out. I think has the second issue even come out yet? I'm not sure. Now that I think about it, I know the first one was out. Maybe the second one is out. I know there's been some delays with that series, but so yeah, people are still chasing this. People are still after it. I was wrong. I thought it's not really him, but it doesn't seem to matter. People are definitely going after this book. Next, we're going to move into Comic Buzz, which is, six more books, kind of related to buzz in the industry and not necessarily option or movie stuff. First up, we have Dark Knights, Death Metal, Legends of the Dark Knights, number 1. The Andrews 1 in 25. This is the first appearance of the Robin King, and he's on the cover. Back then, at release, this was going for $200. Now it's a $70 to $100 book. 9.8 it costs you $150 to $225. So this one definitely has come back down. Still good value for a 1 in 25 that's 6 months old, but it's definitely not where it was going in the craziness of the release of the Robin King and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely come way back from that. Next, we're going to move on to Kanto number 1. This is a series that I've read the trade for. Very good series. And this is just a very hot indie is why this book hit the list. It also helps that this book is very hard to get in high grade. A lot of these were damaged. Back then, a raw copy was going for $120 plus. 9.8s were going for $500. Now, raw copies will go $50 to $100 for the most part. I think some of that is they tend to be a little bit damaged. There was one sale for $200 for a raw copy mixed in. Then I'm guessing that one's a very high grade copy. So yeah, I think most of these are going to have a clean and a press. So when they're selling them, they don't look like 9.8s. So you're going to have to work on them. So that's why the raw copies have kind of come back, I think, a little bit, because most of the raw copies out there do have that damage. But 9.8s are still going in that $400 to $500 range. So this one's down a little bit. Not quite as much buzz around Kanto at the moment, but still a great story. Still an awesome book. Next, we have a book that makes the list for the second week in a row, and that is Raphael number 1, first appearance of Casey Jones. And like everything Turtles lately, this has been super hot. This was probably a long, way undervalued book anyway. And so last week when we talked about it, it hit the list because it had set records at 9.4, 9.6, and 9.8. A week later, it had set new records in all of those grades, and a 9.4 was up to $630, a 9.6 was at $750, and a 9.8 hit $1750. Yeah, as we talked about last week, all those records have been obliterated. The most recent sales of a 9.8 was for $6,000, a 9.6 at $3,600, a 9.4 at $1,900. Raw copies can still be had for $100 to $300, but most of the raw copies are kind of mid to high grade kind of stuff. Not really talking about 9.4, 9.8 candidate kind of books that have been selling lately. My guess is those would go for significantly more than that $100 to $300 that the raw sales I was looking at were. So Straight Cash book, awesome turtle book, and everything turtles has just been super hot over the last year. Next, we're going to go to Ultimates number 2, the second print. And this had everything to do with people speculating because on Donny Cates' Thor run and Galactus having a line that all the damage he done would be, he would return to the universe like twofold or something, would be like the good he would do would be better. And so this is the first appearance of Lifebringer Galactus, an alternate version of Galactus from another universe. So it had people specking that they were going to get this in Donny Cates' run. Raw copies jumped up to $20 to $40. 9.8s were hitting $100 to $125. This doesn't seem to have come to existence, at least not yet. But the book hasn't completely crashed, which is kind of what I thought it would do. It's still going $15 to $25 for a raw copy. 9.8s are still sitting in that $100 to $125 range, so fairly steady for those. So it's come, again, another book that's come back a little bit, definitely more affordable if you want to get it now, but people have not given up on this spec completely yet. So still commanding at least a little bit of value. Next, we have Thor number 4, the second print, and this is the first Black Winter cameo, and then you get kind of the Black Winter on the cover with Galactus as the little dude. Like normally you see people as the little dude compared to Galactus. A very cool cover. And back then this one was going for, I lost my place on the page, $15 to $20. This book has crashed all the way back down. It's basically a cover price book at this point. There hasn't been much happen with Black Winter. And in addition, there is a virgin version of this cover that's doing quite a bit better than this. So that seems to be the one people actually want and not this one with the trade dress. 9.8 on this can literally be had for $30 to $35, occasionally as much as $50. But yeah, so just basically slab cost plus shipping is going to get you a 9.8 of this sucker. So definitely, this book has definitely come crashing back down. Not a lot of interest in this particular version. Next, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 375. This is more Cates' spec, and this is the first appearance of Anne Wang, who was Eddie Brock's ex. And I don't know if it's official that she's Dylan's mom, but I guess that's where everybody thinks. I haven't been reading the Venom stuff. Sorry, Venom's not a character that I typically read. So, but yeah, so that was where the spec was with this. Supposedly there was some comment in issue number 27 that made people think she was coming back into the story. It caused this book to jump basically from a $1 bin book to a $10 to $20 book. 9.8s were going for $150. And it's still setting 5 to 20. 9.8 is actually setting 1 to 135. There was a 135 sale, so that's why I went there instead of 125. So 9.8s are down a little bit. Raw copies are down a little bit, but this book's actually maintained pretty well. My guess is people are still specking on it a little bit, that she might show up in Cates here as we wrap up Cates' run on Venom. With that, we're going to move into some Star Wars stuff. We got one Star Wars book, one MCU book, related book, Disney Plus related book, and one DC book. So let's start with the Star Wars book. Star Wars Legacy number 1, the third print. First appearance of Darth Talon, Darth Krayt, Darth Nil. These are all like, people are specking on this. Now, this is set way in the future. And there doesn't appear to be any work Disney's doing that far into the future. Everything seems to be past, at least right now, with High Republic and or set kind of in the post Return of the Jedi era with the shows. But people are still specking on this book back then. This third print, Adam Hughes cover was going for 100 plus. And this book, like everything Star Wars, has continued to climb. Raw copies now cost you $125 to $250, which is a pretty wide range, but which I thought, well, maybe that's condition driven. I didn't look at all the listings to see for sure. But there's a wide range on 9.8s on this too. Like a 9.8 will cost you anywhere from $5 to $750. So a lot of variation in what this book goes for and what people are willing to pay for it. But general trend has been up like everything Star Wars. Next, we have Young Avengers, #1, first appearance of Kate Bishop. This book has been on the list. Good grief. I don't know. This maybe has been the book that's been on the list the most in the 2 years I've been doing these look backs. I feel like I've talked about this book a lot because it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Because there's been rumors about Kate Bishop, and the book would spike, and then people would kind of forget about it. Then there'd be more rumors, and then there'd be casting rumors, and then all this kind of stuff. So, well, finally we know for sure. We've seen set photos. We know Haley Steinfeld is going to be Kate Bishop. We know that the show is coming here later this year, and this book has just generally been trending up. Back then, it hit $400 for a 9.8, which was up for when it was on the list last week, when it was like back up over 300, like 3 to 350, and so it continued to increase, hit 400, so they put it on the list 2 weeks in a row. Now, sitting 1 to 150 for a raw copy. 9.8s are sitting 4 to 500. So this book has been straight cash. I honestly think if she's a hit, this might still be cheap for this book. We'll see. We're a little ways away from the show yet. Maybe as we get a little further from the Disney Plus announcements that they made back in December, it might settle a little bit, but I have a feeling this book's probably just going to keep going up. At least through when the show comes out. And if she does a good job and it's popular and what's based on the WandaVision stuff that's going on right now, I have the feeling the show's going to be probably pretty well done. Yeah, this book might just be scratching the surface. And finally, we have Richard Dragon, Kung Fu Fighter, #1. And this hit the list because of Bronze Tiger. This is the first appearance of Bronze Tiger. And basically what happened was, well, there was an animated movie coming. So people have been kind of paying attention to this book anyway. I think that animated movie actually just dropped recently, or is about to drop. I don't know. I haven't looked for it. That was basically kind of an origin, Batman learning martial arts kind of thing, and Bronze Tiger and Richard Dragon and Lady Shiva were all supposed to be a part of that movie. Anyway, there was that news that it kind of had this hit the list a few weeks ago, but then Idris Elba, said happy birthday to James Gunn on the internet, but he did it with a tiger filter voice. And so people were like, oh, he's going to be Bronze Tiger, because people were still specking at that point on who he was playing in the Suicide Squad movie. Well, we come to find out it wasn't Bronze Tiger. But anyway, back then, raw copies were hitting 30 to 60. 9.6 went for 260. There had been no 9.8 sales. And that's kind of how things are right now. I haven't seen any recent 9.8 sales. But now it's a $10 to $40 book based on condition on a raw. 9.6 is down to 160. We know that's not who he's playing in the movie. So there hasn't been much continued interest in this book. So that's it. That's this week's list. We only had 15 books this week. I want to thank you guys for watching. We had several books that have continued up. We had a bunch of books that were steady at the beginning of the list, but we still had several books that have dropped back and would have been worth being patient on. But yeah, the Ren and Stimpy, the Miles, the Ice Cream Man, the Bounty Hunters. We had 4 books that were just steady right off the list. The Batman 92, the 2 Turtles books. There's one other, that Star Wars Legacy, the Young Avengers have all been up. So this is the books have performed better this week than typical. So hopefully you learn a few things from this. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time.